congratulations on qualifying for the 2016 Olympics.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge relief and a delight to have got myself an IAAF Olympic qualifier. Still waiting, of course, to hear what the SASCOC standard is, but definitely to have an IAAF Olympic qualifier so far in advance is quite liberating and really puts my mind at ease.
Well, you say it's so far in advance. When's the normal time to qualify for the Olympics?
Well, with the events like the marathon and the 50-kilometer race walk and 20-kilometer race walks, the window opens 18 months before the Olympic Games. So anytime in that time frame you can qualify, whereas for normal track and field events, it's closer to 1 year. I say this far in advance because in 2012, qualifying for London, I only qualified in May, late or early in May, and then the Olympics were basically 3 months later. So the amount of time that it took to try and let it all sink in is very different in terms of preparation and planning and recovery. So really delighted this time around.
Wow, I can't imagine the pressure you were feeling before the 2012 Olympics. At least now you have some more time to let it all sink in and prepare.
Yeah, so it really just adds a lot of value to preparation. In essence, almost knowing that you've got the time on the table to go, as opposed to going into something last minute and it's all eggs in one basket, last minute, nothing to lose. So I'm really delighted with the performance, and my entire support team is pretty ecstatic as well.
Great. Well, the whole country is ecstatic for you as well. You qualified at the IAAF with a time of 3 hours, 56 minutes and 28 seconds. Now, that was in Slovakia, and that's just a little bit less than the record you hold for the 50-kilometer race walk. Were you happy with your time?
I'm pretty delighted with my time. It's my second best ever, so from that point of view, it's also the second best by anyone on the African continent. And I had a knee surgery just after the Olympic Games when I recorded that time in 2012. So within 2 weeks, I was having a knee surgery. So it's my best performance since that knee surgery. So to come back to the same kind of form I was in 2012 is really quite a huge relief. And hopefully with a bit more preparation and some decent training going ahead, I can even improve on that time going forward.
Well, that's really impressive. I mean, congratulations. Now, the 2016 Rio Olympics are about a year, I guess, away. What are you going to do to prepare? What are you doing from now until then?
Well, there'll be some really drastic changes to my lifestyle. We've just seen yesterday or so was the 500 days to go countdown. So I'm following that kind of religiously. But 500 days to go, what will happen is that we're building up now for the IAAF World Championships, which take place in Beijing in China in August. And from there, have a bit of a recovery period for probably 2 or 3 weeks before going into the final push, which will be give or take 330 odd days of training consistently for one big event. So a lot more training and a lot more sacrifices to be put in place in terms of my current working arrangements and commitments, in terms of my training regime, training at altitude and training with other elite athletes. So a lot of changes from my side, and basically trying to utilize each day as to the best benefit possible.
Now, how many hours are you putting into one training session?
Because I've been working full-time at the present moment at University of Sports South Africa, my day has been really challenging to try and get in on average 125 Ks a week. So that works out to very close to 12 to 13 hours, just depending on each week's makeup. But what I'll be looking to do is increasing that closer to 15 to 16 Ks a week, or 16 hours a week, and increasing the volume to consecutive weeks of around about 160 kilometers a week, and building up to weeks touching the vicinity of 200 kilometers, which is very similar to what a lot of athletes are doing, training for comrades, in fact.
Wow, well, that sounds just insane to me, but I guess that's why you are among the best in the world. Now, I want to talk about the race walk. How did you get into race walking?
Jennifer, it's very much following in my father's footsteps. My father got himself injured playing rugby and doing a couple of teenage things, and had to have a knee surgery, and the doctor said that it would be too stressful and strenuous to continue running, but start walking and see how the leg recovers. And he went into walking and represented South Africa in one of the first post-apartheid teams representing in the World Cup for race walking. And I was at an impressionable young age and literally followed in Dad's footsteps.
That's so great. I didn't actually know that about you. That's so amazing. Now, does race walking get a lot of sponsorship and support from the government in South Africa or even on the African continent?
Well, Jennifer, delighted that you asked that, because I can say pretty much categorically and emphatically no. Very much it's dependent on personal relationships with supporters and sponsors. There's not a huge demand because there's very little TV coverage, there's very little brand association. The couple of the top walkers in the country do have their own individual sponsors or supporters that have come on board, assisted them, and made life a lot easier. And I'm not sure if this is a platform to discuss them, but I'm really delighted for the people that are part of my support team that have journeyed with me for the best part of a decade to get me to London 2012 and en route to Rio 2016.
That's great. Now, is it a very competitive sport in South Africa, race walking?
There are one or two people that are starting to come through. The biggest problem, Jennifer, that we had is that up until 2012, there hadn't been a male race walker that competed at the Olympics since 1960. So it was really challenging to find heroes and ambassadors to try and emulate for a generation coming through. However, what is seemingly starting to happen since my participation in 2012 is that there's a generation of youngsters that have seen it on TV, seen a South African participating, and are starting to come through. We did have a South African lady in 2004, Nicoline Cronje, that went to the Athens Olympics, and she was part of my generation, and I learned a hang of a lot from her. And when she qualified, I knew that it was capable for a South African to go, and now I'm playing that forward. And we've got some really tremendous youngsters in the mix. Gil and Nell went to the World Juniors last year in the USA. We've got a youngster, Pierre Vermaak, that's going to the World Youth this year. Lebogang Shange has just broken the SA 20-kilometer record in Lugano 2 weeks ago and also qualified for the Olympics in the 20K men's race. So we've got a really fantastic group of up-and-coming athletes that are on the cusp of competing at events like the Olympics. And by 2020, we should have a full house competing in Tokyo.